What's up, Tiger fans? It's Morgan here, back again, another video. And I wanted to discuss something that I see in the forums a lot, fans ask us a lot about, and that is the creativity for Clemson's offense. And if we think Clemson's offense is going to be more creative going into the 2021 season. Hey, before we get into the video, make sure you like this video and you subscribe or follow us over on Facebook and YouTube, so that you can stay up to date on all of our exclusive Clemson content that we put out every single week. All right, so again, the discussion is, will Clemson's offense be more creative going into 2021? I think this situation stems from the fact that, one, if you're a fan, you probably watch most of Clemson's games. Maybe if you're like me, you watch them multiple times or watch a lot of highlights multiple times, and you do see some of the same plays over and over and over. And I know when I am in the living room, I see times where I can call a play before it even happens because I've seen that play in other games. So it can seem like maybe unfairly from a fan's perspective that Clemson's only doing certain things or the same plays over and over. But there is a bias there because as a fan, you're watching the same team over and over and multiple times. So you have to take that into account and remember where you are as a fan and the fact that you watch that team a lot. But there is a concern there because it did seem like that Clemson got into a habit of doing certain things multiple times, maybe too many times, going back to the well, as they say. I think one of those things, I think there's a few factors. First of all, a lot of people want to say it's the play calling and Tony Elliott and he needs to be more creative and he's too analytical, and I think all that's wrong. I know Tony Elliott's very creative. I know he's very analytic too. I think he can be both, and he has shown that he can be both. And we can't really rag on Clemson's offense too much because they're one of the best offenses in the nation and continue to be that way even when changing quarterbacks and changing elite personnel, skill position personnel as well. So you can't be a bad offensive coordinator, or you can't blame it on just the players, because Tony Elliott's been successful over multiple years. And so I don't think it's just that. Looking at last year, I think there is a lot of criticism from that team because of the lack of being able to run the ball. Now, that starts with the offensive line. So for me, there needs to be, for Clemson to be more creative going into next year, there needs to be an improvement on offensive line. I know we've talked about it many times in the offseason of how this is a big concern for Clemson to improve their offensive line. Are they doing that? We'll have to see. We really will have to see. They're going to have to, because their biggest game, and arguably their biggest game, and the hardest game is going to be the first game of the season. So they're going to have to show up immediately and show that they've improved immediately. There is no time to work their way into it with the schedule that they have. So do I think they're doing that? I really can't say 100% or not. I do feel like I have confidence in the fact that they have Jordan McFadden, who has experience, Walker Parks, who is a guy who has started, jumped on the offensive line and started at a young age, started it right when he came out from high school. So you have two guys that have talent there. And then you also have Bockhorst, who has the experience and is a veteran on the team. I think moving him to center is a good thing because you really need someone who knows what they're doing there and who is familiar with the offensive scheme, very familiar with it. So I think that making that move is going to help, but there still is a big question mark at left guard. There's kind of a question mark at right guard of who will step up there and will they improve the push. It's not so much about pass blocking. They did great. I think they did well at pass blocking last year. But run blocking, not so much. They did not get a push. Many times they were playing behind the line of scrimmage and not getting past or even to the second level at all. So there has to be an improvement there. That opens up your play calling. If you don't have that, which they didn't last year, if you don't have the running game, you don't have that push, your play calling pretty much gets bland, very bland after that. You have to do trick plays, you have to do misdirections, you have to do to the sidelines a lot, and you have to pass a lot more. Thankfully, last year they had Trevor Lawrence. This year they're going to have DJU, so you got to think that they're going to be able to pass again. Also, last year they lost wide receivers. Joseph Ngata was injured a lot. Ladson injured a lot. Ross didn't play at all. So weapons were removed from them. Offensive line did not step up. Weapons were removed. Recipe for disaster. Not a team you would expect. When I say those things, if I'm saying any other team other than Clemson, they're not making the playoffs with those issues. But they did make the playoffs, and they were able to have a great offense last year. So with the fact that DJ is going to have Justin Ross back, going to hopefully have Ngata and Ladson and Williams playing regularly and rotating out, I think that will be able to help as well. Lynn J. Dixon, a guy you can get out to the sidelines and into the flats. Again, we're talking about Kobe Pace. He's going to be a guy who can run up the middle and be a bruiser. But then the X factor, Will Shipley. Nobody knows about him yet. We'll see what can happen. But you're going to get him out there Christian McCaffrey style. Joe Brady and Christian McCaffrey are playing with each other right now. They're right now on the same team for the Panthers. So I think that is a good sign for Clemson's offense to be more creative or feel more creative going into the 2021 season, because they're not going to be limited if those things fall into place. Still a lot of unknowns there. Also, I want to go back to the fact that 2 years ago, I really analyzed the routes that were ran in the UNC game. And I will say that it did feel like Clemson went and had their outside receivers run deep almost every single pass play. I don't necessarily think that should be a strategy going into this season. You're going to always have your outside guys just play the deep ball and hopefully get in one-on-one coverage where they can out jump or out beat that one-on-one coverage, right? Use their athleticism to take advantage of the situation, right? So I feel like when it comes to play calling, I would like to see more horizontal attacks, not so much vertical attacks to the outside edge. I want to see more horizontal attacks, not only the shallow cross, but the mid cross and the deep cross as well. If you look at some of the plays that Joe Brady does for the Panthers, he did last year, he didn't have as solid of a quarterback. I would say DJ's better than Teddy Bridgewater. He attacked the field horizontally, the defense horizontally. And majority of the time, 3 guys were running to the left, 2 guys were running to the right. So that they were meshing there in the middle so that you confuse the defense and the linebackers even more. Ohio State ran the tight ends across the middle in the shallow across and in the mid cross for Clemson, and the linebackers were not able to keep up. They got stuck in man. They got stuck in zones, or when they were in man, they got stuck looking at the quarterback and getting deceived while the guy ran behind them. So I think that Clemson can do those same things. They have the personnel. I want to see Galloway going shallow crosses. I want to see Galloway doing mid crosses. I'd like to see Galloway going across the field at the same time putting Will Shipley into the flats on the same side as Galloway. I'd like to see the outside receivers go across more deep, maybe to the opposite direction. Again, this is all me from a fan perspective, but to me, I think this team will do great if they start out with a running back next to the wide receiver in a more traditional spread, but really it's an empty backfield because you're going to immediately get Shipley or Dixon in motion. You're going to immediately send them out to the flats. So really, within 2 seconds of the ball being hiked, maybe even less, the running back's already in the flats. So at the end of the day, it's really, an empty set, a 5 wide, if you will, for the Tigers. And that's what Brady does a lot. Joe Brady does a lot for the Panthers. That's what he did a lot for the LSU Tigers. And so I think Clemson can tap into that as well. Now, should Clemson tap into the Kansas City Chiefs? I know a lot of fans have mentioned that they'd like to see a lot of those misdirections, a lot of the same play, but in a different formation. I don't know if Clemson's going to do that. It doesn't seem like that's kind of the MO, the style, or the scheme of the offense for them to match Kansas City. But I do feel like Clemson can definitely match what Joe Brady does or has done or has shown in, case in point, beating Clemson. So another thing, too, is I wanted to say is I talked about the offensive line. I talked about the running backs. Talked about the wide receivers. But there's the factor, too, of the quarterback. And as much as we love Trevor Lawrence, as much as we know that he is an elite athlete, number 1 NFL draft pick, so there's not much negative you can say about him, but nobody is perfect. Everybody has their flaws. And when you go back to look at the Ohio State game, there are times, and even as far back as the Tar Heel game, there are times when, as a fan, you can back up the play and rewatch it, and you're like, did Trevor ever look at anybody else? And I wouldn't say he did this every single play, but there were critical times, especially on third downs, where it seemed like, and maybe it was the scheme, maybe it was the play call, maybe that's something that could be improved from a Tony Elliott's point of view. Maybe it's not Trevor at all. But there did seem like on third down in scenarios where Trevor Lawrence would just say, hey, I'm throwing to T. Higgins. It doesn't matter what the defense is showing me. Hey, I'm throwing to Amari Rodgers. It doesn't matter what the defense is showing to me. And I would say that kind of also puts you at a disadvantage, not only if you have the offensive line that's struggling, the running game that can't get going, and you're limited on your playmaking wide receivers, and then on third down you look at only one person. I think that puts you behind as well, and you can't keep up with those elite scoring offenses. Does Clemson have the personnel to keep up with those elite scoring offenses? Yes. Do they need to improve in certain areas on offense? Yes. Do they have a revamp of some of their playmakers? Yes. So there's a lot of unknowns going into next season. Will Clemson's offense be more creative? Only time will tell, really. Let me know what you think in the comments. I can't say for sure, but I do hope that Clemson can add in some new wrinkles to put some defenses off guard. And I think, again, they're going to have to do it early because you got Georgia, first game of the year, coming up very, very soon. So, hey, get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Am I crazy? Again, I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not a defensive coordinator. I don't know much about the actual schemes and play calls or a film review guy, but I will say this, from a fan perspective, I can understand where you guys are coming from and wanting there to be more creativity, or at least feel that there is more creativity. A lot of factors involved. Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us over on Facebook so you can stay up to date on all of our exclusive Clemson content and get notified for whenever I put out a new video. Again, every Thursday night, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., we're going to be live on the Roar, Facebook, and YouTube. So go check us out for our live stream Thursday night starting September 2nd.